I just thought I'd pop your machine in the back there that I've been successfully using. I'm so wrapped. I'm really pleased.
Tell the whole story for the benefit of everybody.
Okay. So I've had major problems with my left eye that started a little while ago. I've been to the hospital and I've had some tests done that have all come back inconclusive, which doesn't surprise me. Um, and I just felt that, I was really risking the possibility of losing the sight in my left eye. I have masses of swarms of black floaters in my eye, and then eventually internally I felt my eye was beginning to become inflamed, and that there was this sort of internal swelling going on. And then that's partly when I reached out to yourself and kindly got the machine behind me that you lent me.
So,
And
but before
yesterday,
we get onto that,
yes,
let me ask you more about what the doctors, what the ophthalmologists were saying, what it
yeah,
was, and what might
sure.
happen. Yeah.
Mhm. So they basically ran through like 3 days of all these inconclusive tests. So what they were able to ascertain, so, let's not throw them completely under the bus. They were able to take photographs of my eye. They were able to see some very big glitch to the sort of 10 o'clock position in my left eye. They knew that they were looking at something, and they threw out a whole host of possibilities, sent me off for a lot of blood tests. Everything came back negative. One thing that they have been repeatedly saying is they think it's toxoplasmosis. And although they say that, they can't conclusively 100% give me that as a guarantee. And the reason for that is because millions of people have this already in their system. It's dormant, it's lying dormant in their system. So the potentiality of me testing in my blood that I have it is high. So what does that really say? So at the end of the day, 3 days of tests, 3 days of sitting in the hospital, 3 days of it not getting any worse, but not necessarily getting any better. And they still weren't really able to say much. They wanted to hit me with possibly 6 months of oral steroids, including an enormous amount of antibiotic. And the warning bells went up. I just went, that's enough. I was willing to put some drops in my eye for a day or two. I was willing to take something acutely in case I was about to go blind. But after a number of days, I just realized I was going around in circles and that I wasn't trusting my own intuition really around this. And I took stock and just went, no, I'm not doing this. This is crazy. So yeah, that's where we were at. And then, as I said, the inflammation began to creep up internally inside the eyeball. I could really feel that, and I don't think a lot of the tests were really helping that situation, because I had to keep looking left and looking right, looking up, looking down, and looking into these really extremely high lights. And I'm in a lot of ways, I'm glad that they were at least able to photograph my eye. I'm pleased. They were very, very kind to me. They were very gracious, good, nice people, but they just didn't come up with anything in the end. They've asked me to come back on the 9th of this month. So, we're looking at September. And yeah, on one hand, they kept saying things like, I'd have one doctor who would say, warning, warning, if you don't follow our protocol, you're going to lose your eyesight, and they would throw up these one or two possibilities of people that have had that happen to them. And of course, they scared the bejeebers out of me, thinking, well, you know, am I going to really lose my eyesight here? But really, in hindsight, I recognized that more than likely what they were doing was just absolutely covering themselves, covering all their bases and making sure that from an allopathic standpoint, that they actually were making sure that it wasn't going to come back on them had they not suggested all of these things to me that are very much in line with what they suggest. And that's when I just went, okay, that's enough. I've had it photographed. I've had it looked at. I've tried a small amount of their methodology. It doesn't seem to be getting any worse, but nor any better. They haven't given me any clear indication of what's going on. It's time for me to pull back and listen to myself. And I got in touch with you, and we've been on the machine. I've probably sat on it now about 6, maybe 7 times since yesterday afternoon, late yesterday afternoon. And so, you know, we're looking at less than 24 hours at the moment. So before I went to bed yesterday, throughout the rest of that afternoon, I used the machine probably 6 times, maybe 5 times, just with 30 seconds on and then giving it a rest for about 15 seconds and again 30 seconds on.
So over your closed eyelids, over your closed eyelid.
Over my closed eyelid, yes. So I had my eyelid closed, and the eye instrument across it, and then just rested back, and just relaxed for 30 seconds. And then just removed it for about 15 seconds and then went back on. And I did that probably 3 times, 4 times, and then I would have a break for an hour or so. And then I would come back and I'd repeat that. So I did that process probably 4 or 5 times yesterday before going to bed. And then I went to bed, and actually before I went to bed, I began to sense that there was a funny kind of pain in my eye. It was more like a tugging sensation when I moved my eye around, and I put that down to the inflammation, and that had gone. It had just gone. And then before going to bed, I touched my eyes, and I could feel a slight difference between here on this one and this one. So I knew that this was raised, and if I touched it, it was slightly bruised feeling. And so that was going. It really was minimizing, and that feeling was beginning to lessen. And then I woke up in the night. I woke up at about 3:30 in the morning, and I realized my eye, I had no pain. And all of the swelling has gone down, so it feels exactly the same as the other eye. And I used the machine at 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, just gave myself another little treatment with my eye closed on there. I just repeated what I did earlier and went back to bed and had a restful sleep, and have woken up this morning feeling a lot more optimistic and just thrilled, absolutely thrilled that I've got this machine. So thank you, Clive. And yeah, I'm really very, very happy with the progress. So I'm going to continue using this, and you know, hopefully over time, they say that the floaters take a little bit of time to just dissipate. The body needs some time to break that down. But it's not any, I wouldn't say that the floaters have lessened, but there's no worse. And I feel like my eye has more fluid back in it. Yeah, I'm feeling very optimistic. Yeah.
It's ironic that ophthalmologists currently today use one of Nikola Tesla's inventions, but ignore the other one. So they use diathermy when they do surgery, which was Tesla.
Right.
Yet the Tesla device that you have has very similar results. It's like a diathermy machine, but much less powerful. But, you know, because you can use an eye attachment, just like you did, with a diathermy machine. You'd have to, you know, not the ones that the ophthalmologists use now, because they're just for cutting without bleeding. But it's interesting. It's selective what they've chosen to run with. I would look at getting rid of the floaters with MSM sulfur and a digestive enzyme or a proteolytic enzyme like serrapeptase. We've got a product like that called Prozyme, which is worth having a look at. So, well, thanks for that. Hopefully, it has solved the problem. What does your intuition say caused it in the first place?
Yeah, that's really good, actually. I've had quite a lot going on. So I went into menopause, and I've been really treating myself, I suppose, menopausally. So I've been taking a lot of actually a lot of your products in the form of fulvic acid, the fulvic minerals. Sorry, I've been taking the immuno and the selenium, just to name a few. I mean, I've got some other things in my cupboard that I'm using, but those are your products that I've used alongside a couple of other things like, you know, vitamin C and all those things. And I was beginning to really get a lot of traction with some of my menopausal symptoms, which were hot flushes and just generally not feeling tremendous in my physical being, you know, aches and pains. And one of the things that I had an intuitive hit for was that my liver was potentially a little sluggish. And I decided to try some bile salts. And as soon as I took these bile salts, I really felt like something kicked up in my system. And I all of a sudden had this strange couple of floaters beginning in my eyes. And then within sort of 24 to 48 hours, there was this big burst of them in my eye. And it's really interesting because every person that I spoke to in this journey since my eye began, namely with the hospital, I told them about this. I told them about the bile salts, and I told them about the correlation that I'm aware of between the liver, the gallbladder, and the eyes. And it's really bizarre. Not one of them knew any of this, which was also a real red sign for me, you know, like a red flag going up. So I think that what's been happening, and on top of that, I've been exceptionally looking after myself dietary wise. So
let me just interrupt you for a minute. You know, I've never used bile salts. I don't really know anything about them, but I probably should. But had you used them before in the past, or was this the first time?
No, I hadn't. And I'll tell you another emotional link that's been going on for me as well with all of this is, so my father, he has really bad liver condition at the moment. He has cancer. But prior to that, he had been a drinker and, of course, had some liver damage because of that. And I had purchased loads of your products, and I've been kind of nursing him through some of his symptoms around nausea and things like that. And we're gaining traction there too. But it's interesting because bile salts, he's had his gallbladder removed, and bile salts was something that Dr. Berg had discussed.
Have you had your gallbladder removed?
No, I haven't had my gallbladder removed, but I was researching this for my father, and I realized that it's not about you having had your gallbladder removed. He certainly recommends it if you have had your gallbladder removed. But if you've got a sluggish liver, or you feel that your liver might need some detoxing, you can take a small dose of the bile salts, and it just helps to purge the liver. If it's fatty
Before
or
he
something
talked
like
about
that.
that, did he suggest eating more fat? Did he suggest that most people's bile problems, when the bile ducts get blocked, it's because they're not eating enough cholesterol, they're not eating enough fat? I wonder whether he mentioned that, because that would be the first thing to do, I would have said.
Yeah. It is mentioned in his videos, and that's the thing. I mean, my diet, I do consume a fair amount of really good fat, but I know that my father hadn't been, and it was just an intuitive hit for me, researching for him and feeling a lot of my symptoms. I just felt that there was perhaps some family correlation there. And so I bought some for myself and took maybe 3 or 4 capsules. That was it. Not all at once, but just over a couple of days. And then this symptom of my eye came flaring up. But I just thought that it was really interesting how there was that emotional correlation alongside, with my father having his liver issue. And then also looking at the fact that intuitively I felt as though perhaps it was the last little call for me to help my liver along, and then bang, this. And if this is parasitic, which is what toxoplasmosis is supposed to be, and I don't think it's just straightforward, it's toxoplasmosis. I do think that this is a parasitic thing that's going on in me. And I say that because of my history. And then, interestingly enough, coupling it with what's going on with my father, it just sort of feels like I'm going through quite a large healing situation where my body's really just trying to come back to homeostasis. It was just that when it hit my eye, I kind of freaked out, lost my center, and thought, shit, I might lose my eyesight here. And I kind of reached out for the medical industry. And in hindsight, I now know that what was happening for me was that I just lost my intuition around this, and that I am actually really probably more having a healing crisis. And all of a sudden today, I've woken up just feeling so much more back in my center. I haven't taken anything more that the hospital has given me. Like I haven't put any drops in my eyes. I haven't taken any antibiotics that they've given me. I haven't done any of that now for 48 hours. And although I was only doing the absolute bare minimum, and I feel much more in control of this situation, and a lot more back in my own center, and very acutely aware today that I am actually just going through a healing process, and that anything that they were doing was really just was suppressing it. Yeah.
So could the bile salts have driven the parasite out from the liver area and it found a new home in the eye?
I think so. This is what my intuition is telling me. I feel that I've done a lot of sort of far-flung travel, and recently in Mexico 4 times throughout the whole scandemic. And, I just seem to be a bit of a magnet for this type of thing. Every time I've traveled throughout India or any of the far-flung places that I have been to, generally speaking, I've gotten sick on my travels, or I've brought something home with me where I've, pooped through the eye of a needle for days, or I felt terribly unwell, or I've had vomiting, or a host of different things. And I can can say that that's probably happened to me anywhere between 6 to 8 times throughout my travels. And I've never treated any of them with antibiotics. I've always treated them with either Ayurvedic or homeopathic or some other way. And so moving forward, fast forwarding, I just feel that I've been looking after myself so well lately, and I've been really hitting things fairly hard on the nutrition level, that there's just this pathway all of a sudden that's available, and this stuff wants to come out. The stuff that the parasites and the whatnot that just haven't been able to exit my body in the past has just decided that this is where it's going to affect me. And isn't it interesting that it's my eye? It's like, look at this, see it. I can't ignore this. I've got to look through this. And it's so intuitively, like I've been kind of having those thoughts of having the eyes to see, and the ears to hear, that your own body telling you what it is that you need to know. And so that's what I'm thinking is going on here. I'm really convinced that that's what's happening here, and I feel I'm not in fear anymore. I don't think I'm losing my eyesight, and I don't think I need to go back to the hospital, and I don't think that anything that they have to offer me is going to work. I think that what I'm doing is going to work, and I mean, with this machine and perhaps a parasite protocol, and continue eating well, and this will clear up. Yeah.
Well, one of the qualities of the device is that it kills parasites.
Yeah.
A lot of people use it on the wrists, for instance. If something's bloodborne, malaria being an example, you can try and zap the thing through the blood flow.
Now, isn't that interesting? Last night, when I took it off my eye for a wee break, I actually intuitively was putting it on my wrists. I sat there and I was tapping it on my wrists. So maybe there's something there, yeah. Because you're also aware of Phoenix Aurelius. So he did a full body scan of me. That he's got a machine that reads a person's energetic field, I would imagine. So he's put that through the machine, and he has confirmed that this is parasites, and quite a number of different ones. So I'm happy with ticking that box and saying, okay, I think this is parasitic, what's happening. Certainly has all the hallmarks of it. So I'm just going to keep treating myself that way, naturally.
Well, fantastic. Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. And Dirk, as a dentist, might be interested to discuss with me how dentists use these devices.
Yes, it certainly looks like we'll be purchasing one. We certainly will be.
Every home should have one.
By the time. Yeah, every home should have one. Yeah. In fact, Dirk's actually doing a talk tonight, a holistic dental talk tonight, and I've got a feeling that he's going to mention this machine at the end of his talk tonight, just to let people know why I haven't attended the talk, because I've decided I'll stay at home and take care of myself and not go out tonight.
If you're interested in purchasing one of these devices, I, together with the foremost restorers, well, there are very few restorers who know how to fix these machines up properly. We find them and restore them and supply them mainly to practitioners, but also to everybody who has an interest in this form of health. So if you're interested, you can contact me at clive@secrethealthclub.com. clive@secrethealthclub.com. And you can join the club if you want to, and you'll find out more directly by going there.